Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you are all having a fabulous Saturday morning so far, heading into the afternoon. And we have started the day off today at Tembe Elephant Park, and thank goodness we have some elephants that have decided to join us today. With all this rainy weather we've been having, some of our locations have been a little bit absent of wildlife, or as we mentioned yesterday, they're all attending the end of year animal festival, I'm guessing, with the rainy season arriving. My name is Kerry Dupree, and I will be joining you today. On our tech team, we have Marcel, and our director for the day is Mika. It is a lovely rainy Saturday here in Johannesburg, where we are joining you from, and most of our locations in South Africa are experiencing quite a lot of rainfall. Did look quite cloudy in Tembe Elephant Park yesterday afternoon, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did receive a little bit of rain. It does look like the soil is a little bit wet, but I don't think they've received huge downpour, just maybe some scattered showers. Juma does look very muddy and very wet as well. So lovely to have these elephants to start off the day. Beautiful big male tusker elephants. So just a reminder, folks, that this is a live and interactive experience. You can watch us on the app or use the QR code on screen to send any questions. Just scan the QR code. If you're on Twitter or X, just use the hashtag at Wild Earth to join in the conversation. Let us know how your weekend is going. If you have any particular interests for the day, anything you would like to us to look out for, any birds, any wildlife that you are interested in, just send us those comments and I'll be happy to assist. We've got some huge elephant tuskers today. Lovely to see all the tuskers have come down, and our floppy elephant friend has also joined us. So there's a big bull here on the left with a floppy ear. Does seem to be a male elephant that frequents this watering hole quite often, and it even looks like we are joined today by some Inyala. So we've got a male Inyala on the left-hand side, far left-hand side of the pan, and possibly a few more females and another male just further to the right. So, oh, there we go. All the Nyala have also come out to have a bit of a munch of this nice fresh green grass down by the watering hole. Mercedes Bean, thank you for joining us. Happy Saturday, and yeah, looking forward to having a nice day here with the rest of the Wild Earth chatters as we enjoy watching all of our different locations here live at the watering hole. Lovely to see Nyala. We don't often see Nyala down at Tembe. It's been a while since I saw Nyala, so really excited to see some nice big mature male Nyala and a few female Nyalas as well. So quite a big sexual dimorphism between Nyala male and females. Just look at the coloration. So very beautiful antelope species. Greetings, Catherine. Thank you for joining us. I hope that Germany is not too snowy and cold today. Yeah, it did look like a bit of a sunny day to start off our Saturday in southern Africa, but very quickly the rain rolled in, and yeah, now we're experiencing quite a bit of showers and scattered rainfall across the country. Just having a scan to see if there's any other wildlife out there. Just like looks like we've just got the Nyala. We had some impala here yesterday as well, and of course we've had our woolly neck storks and an array of aquatic bird life. Look at those male Nyalas, very impressive. I must say, I do love the spiraled horns of these Nyala, and they always look like they're wearing pajama pants. So they look like they're wearing a shabby, long pajama pants with brown tights underneath, like shabby, long coats on their underbelly. It is an antelope native to southern Africa. It is part of the Bovidae family, or Tragalophus. It's in the same family as your kudu. Very impressive male elephant here. Look at those tusks. That's very impressive tusks that he is showing off there. Animal lover, yes, it is. You can definitely see the resemblance between a Nyala and Kudu, especially if you see a young Nyala male. They are a bit lighter grey in colour and can very easily be mistaken for kudu, although kudu are more, yeah, a lot grayer in color. So females, I think it'll be quite difficult to differentiate the female nyala or confuse a female nyala with a female kudu. But often, if nyala are feeding in a herd of impala, they have that very similar tawny tan color to their coat, which can very easily be mistaken for an impala. Just having a bit of a listen. You can hear the European bee eaters flying overhead. They're also a migratory bird that have arrived for the rainy season. So a lot of these migratory birds do follow the rains and the insects. So with the rain comes a flush of a lot of different types of insects, especially the flying ants or alates, termites, a lot of movement, and that's what these migratory birds, like the European bee eaters, are following. Very impressive to see these big tuskers here today. Obviously, with the rains, all the soil is nice and fresh, and I think, yeah, it's nice for the elephants to come down to the watering hole. I'm pretty sure they had a bit of a miserable day yesterday. We had no elephants or barely any elephants at any of our locations yesterday, so I'm sure these elephants are thirsty and yeah, we're dying to come down to the watering hole, have a bit of a drink, and also enjoy these minerals down here. So you can see a lot of these elephant holes. So where the elephants have spent a lot of their time mining for minerals and seeking that very much needed mineral rich soil in order to sustain their diet. Yeah, nice communal gathering time too for these elephant bulls to have a bit of a social. And these mineral rich soils that are in Tembe. So Tembe has a very high mineral content in the soils, and this does help these big elephant tuskers to maintain those very strong, long, thick tusks of theirs, as opposed to the elephants in Namibia. So Namibia has a lot of sand, sandy, salty soils. Yes, these soils in Namibia, because of their lack of minerals, there are lots of salts, but lacking minerals, does make it hard for the elephant's tusks in Namibia to sustain a nice long length. That's why a lot of elephants in Namibia have very short tusks because of the lacking of minerals in the soils, as well as the heat and dryness. So we got a pretty cool question coming through from Katie. Thank you for sending your question, Katie. So Katie's asking, in winter or cold days, how do elephants regulate their body temperature or keep warm? So elephants have several adaptations in order to help them regulate their body temperature and keep warm in these colder conditions. And one of them is obviously their thermal mass. So, because elephants have such large bodies, they retain a lot of heat their size, which reduces the rate of heat loss compared to smaller animals. So that big mass and body size of the elephants is one good way for them to retain their body heat. Obviously, they have a very substantial fat layer, which also retains a lot of heat as well. And elephants can also go and seek shelter in forests or thick areas in order to avoid being getting too wet out in the open areas, or avoid the howling wind. And yeah, it's another method for them to keep dry during the cold winter days. So we have a few comments coming through here. Thank you to all of our viewers watching. Harriet Hodgins joining us from Cape Town. Seems like you're having a very windy day in Cape Town. I hope you don't get blown away in that terrible Cape Town wind. Christy, thank you for joining us from Ohio, USA. Incredible to have viewers from all over the world. And Catherine, I hope that you are having a lovely cat day. Um, I hope they had some Saturday sightings on our morning sunrise and sunset safari. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a cat or two um, here on live at the waterhole. You never know what's going to happen on these overcast days. That's why I love rainy days on safari, because a lot of people don't expect to see much. But as long as you have patience and a good rain jacket, you never could be surprised with what you see next. Had some pretty incredible sightings on these overcast rainy days. You get caught off guard and don't expect to see anything, and next thing you have some incredible sightings. So no matter what the weather, I always think it's always a great idea to go out anyways, because there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. As long as you're geared up, ready for the adventure, always prepared to go out there and see what we can find. So Picasso, thanks for your question. So Picasso is asking if the white storks have arrived yet. I haven't seen any white storks yet, or heard of any white storks arriving. But I'm sure by the end of the month or in January, that's generally a good time for the white storks to occur in a lot of locations in KZN, following the insect bursts of life. Why don't we have a bit of a quiet moment while we listen to this elephant giving himself a good old splash and see he's wanting to enjoy a nice mud bath. So we'll have a bit of a quiet moment here. So we were talking about thermoregulation in elephants, and yeah, mud bathing can be a very good way for elephants to cool their bodies down, as well as protecting their skin from the heat of the day, from the sunshine, and can also be a good anti-parasitic. So yeah, it's a very great way for elephants to protect themselves from the sun, as well as enjoying a good old mud bath. So some very big tuskers here today, I must say. So one of the longest tusks that have ever been recorded was a very long length of 3.5 meters, which is almost the same length as a small car, which is pretty crazy to think of an elephant's tusk over 3 meters. One of the heaviest elephant tusks also ever recorded was over 120 kilograms. So yeah, elephants can be right or left-handed, so that can affect the kind of the length the tusks grow. So sometimes elephants' tusks can break from time to time, which will mean one tusk might be shorter or longer than the other. So it's not always that elephants' tusks are exactly the same length or exactly the same shape, depending on wear and tear. But if you think about it, how crazy is that to think of an elephant's tusk weighing 120 kilograms, which is about, yeah, the same size as a front row rugby player. So if you think of 120 kilograms, how crazy is that? Alrighty, folks, doesn't look like our elephants are going anywhere, so why don't we head over to Safari Hook over in Namibia and see what's waiting for us? Got some springbuck and oryx that are joining us at the watering hole today. So yeah, a lot of movement. Maybe the pan is very busy this morning. Nice hot day over in Namibia, very different to our weather here in southern Africa. So Picasso, to answer your question, Catherine sent through a comment saying that the white storks are still in Germany. Looks like they've decided not to migrate this year. So, yeah, the migratory patterns of some birds can be very much dependent on the rainfall and, of course, the climate. So, yeah, if the rains are all arriving a bit later than expected, the storks might also delay their departure. Um, so their departure date might just be delayed by a short period of time until they decide that the weather patterns have aligned and the stars are aligned for them to migrate. Could have an elephant, something else drinking at the watering hole today. Lots of springbuck, lots of pregnant springbuck as well. Haven't seen any baby springbuck just yet. Quite cool to see little baby springbuck. You see the difference between these male and female springbuck here. Males have much thicker, broader horns, whereas the females have quite thin, narrow horns that kind of splay out, whereas the male's horns kind of are very thick and do curve inwards. That's a really good way to tell the difference between male and female springbuck. This is a pregnant female right in the middle here. Quite a few pregnant females. Do love the color variation of these springboks with white on the underbelly, the brown stripe, and light tan tawny color on top. So it's amazing how all antelope are evolved and adapted to blend into the environment over many, many years of evolution. These are very slender, long-legged antelope, the springbuck. They can reach about 70 to 80 centimeters in height, so that's at shoulder level, shoulder height, and they do weigh anything between 27 to 42 kilograms between male and female. Obviously, males are a lot heavier and bigger than the females. And both sexes do have their long black horns. And as you can see, this is quite a young female here. Look how small her horns are. Probably 2 to 3 years of age. With a lot of antelope species, you can generally guesstimate the age on the horn length and thickness. Sanjeev Roy, thank you for sending through your little bit of information about rhinos, about the rhino populations. Apparently, some information was shared this morning about rhinos, and that in 2024, over 230 rhinos have already been poached, which is more than about one rhino per day. So, yeah, unfortunately, rhino poaching is a quite an issue in Africa, especially South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. Thank goodness there are quite a lot of NGOs out there trying to help to protect rhino and rhino populations. So the IRF is working with a lot of local communities in order to stop poaching and also to protect the growing populations of black and white rhinos. So white rhino populations are recovering a lot quicker than black rhino, but black rhino are still near threatened, and their numbers are still very much unstable. So yeah, a lot of community development and community involvement is being constantly taken out in order to try to protect these very special species. Lovely to see these Gemsbok as well here. So thank you for sending your comment through Animal Lover. Gemsbok are definitely a very beautiful species. I must say, I love the stripy patterns that they have on the face. Very unique coloration. We were talking about yesterday how the Gemsbok have very particular and unique colorations in order to reflect and refract light from their face. You can see those colorations, the black and white lines. Same with cheetah, how cheetah have their teardrop black markings on their face. And this is because some of these animals and antelope predators, they spend a lot of time in the sun. So all these markings do have evolved over many years to help the antelope in order to see better and be more uh, well developed and evolved in order to survive in their habitat. So gemsbok do occur in Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. Of course, their main habitats is the Kalahari and the Namib Desert. This is where they do flourish. So very well adapted to surviving for very long periods without water. So the population of Gemsbok is doing quite well. There's probably over 300,000 Gemsbok that have been recorded. So they are not a vulnerable species, and they're obviously doing pretty well. And crazy how they can go for such long distances without much food or water. And this is again many, many years of evolution that has taken place in these antelope species. They are mostly grazers, but they do spend some time browsing as well. So Julie, yes, some of these gemstock are looking a little bit thin. Um, Again, as we mentioned, don't see much grass around here in Namibia. So, yeah, Gemsbok, especially after a long dry season, are yeah might be a little bit on the thin side. But yeah, I'm sure as soon as the rains arrive and there's more food around for them, they'll put on some condition. You can see obviously the springbok. Most of the springbok we're seeing are also quite plump in good shape. But yeah, a lot of animal or antelope species after a long dry season might be a little bit under shape, or their condition body score might be a bit lower, but maybe just pray for the rains to come so that they can start to put on a bit of condition. Spas and Co. Yes, it is lovely watching these springbok and gemsbok down here at the pan today. Have a look at those incredible stripes and markings on this gemsbok space. So there's actually a dormouse called the gemsbok dormouse, because it has very similar facial markings to the actual gemsbok antelope. So it's a pretty cute little dormouse species that actually resembles this gemsbok. So these gemsbok do generally live in herds, anything between about 10 to 40 individuals, which does normally consist of one dominant male. And of course, you might have a few sub-adult non-dominant males as well as females. So mostly desert dwelling antelope, and they can go for quite a few days, even up to a week without water. And quite interesting how a lot of these antelope species in Namibia or in the desert regions have adapted to being crepuscular creatures, so semi-nocturnal. So Gemsbok will actually spend a lot of their time grazing and feeding and browsing at night. One, in order to save their energy in the heat of the day, and two, to deter themselves from predators. Alrighty, folks. Seems like we've got a little bit of activity at Lentore. Let's head over and see what's waiting for us in Kenya. Oh, check out who's waiting for us. Baboons coming to check out the camera. That was a perfect close up selfie moment with those young baboons. They were very curious of the camera here. It's interesting. So a lot of the times the baboons are very curious of cameras or any sort of trail cams. Oh, hello. If you've got your camera close by, I would definitely be ready for a screenshot. Get this baboon's face right in the camera. Looks like there's a female here in heat. So the baboons see their reflection in the camera quite often. Makes them very curious. And yeah, they often come for a bit of a selfie. So if you're on your phone, ready to take a screenshot, or on your TV, take a photo, because any moment now, hopefully this young baboon will stick his face right into the camera. Looks like we've still got our hammerkops. Sounds like there was a bit of family politics going on. A young baboon obviously stepped out of line, and yeah, was maybe being disciplined. These baboons here in Kenya are very fluffy, I must say. Look at those furry coats, probably because of all the time they spend up in the mountains. So do you find the primates, especially baboon species, can be slightly different. I mean, obviously, chacma baboons, same species that you do get in most countries in southern Africa, but in different regions they might have shorter coats, longer coats, darker coats and lighter coats depending on the kind of environment they hang out in. So just like in Cape Town, those baboons over in Cape Town, generally very thick, long, dark coats, whereas the baboons you'd get in South Africa and in open grassland areas of Zimbabwe and Zambia, much thinner coats. But wow, these Kenyan baboons, rather fat and fluffy. Looks like their Christmas came a bit early this year. So, George, thanks for your comment. It is lovely watching these baboons. They're rather entertaining, I must say. And yeah, it's really interesting to see the Chakma baboons that look quite different to the baboons we're used to here in southern Africa. Hello, little guy. Don't let their cuteness fool you, though. They are rather mysterious and mischievous creatures, baboons. Catherine, thanks for your comment about the Gemsbok. Apparently, you do get Gemsbok in Germany. Goodness, I must give these Gemsbok a Google. And apparently, it's believed that they were early settlers which named them after those Gemsbok in Africa. Oh, check at this little guy. Hey. Oh, check at him. He's coming for a selfie. So you can probably see his reflection in the camera there. This one is so curious. Whoop. I hope someone is screen recording this because this is quite entertaining. There's a big female that was obviously chased away by another male. So yeah, thanks for your info, Catherine, about your Gemsbok that you have in Germany. Penelope Kenyon, thank you for joining us today. And yeah, I hope you are having a lovely day so far. Uh, I don't think many of our locations have sunshine. So we're really enjoying the sunshine here in Kenya. This is a very large troop of baboons, I must say. So the Chakma baboons are the largest member of the baboon family, very highly and sociable creatures. I can't help but laughing every time these baboons look into this camera. Sorry. Whoop! You see, he got a fright when he saw himself. The youngsters are very playful. So generally, these baboons can hang out in troops anything from about 20, 30 to up to 200 individuals in a troop of baboons, which does not surprise me. I've seen quite large troops. Oh, you can see some aloe grooming going on here. So I'm really enjoying watching these baboons. If you see on the right hand side, there's a youngster that's grooming one of the big males of the troop. So the big males, they're also known as dogs. So the big dogs, big males that will lead the troop. So a big troop of up to 200 can have a few males within the group, um, within the troop, in order to help to manage and control that troop. So the females generally just follow, and the males will be the ones who will go and search out for new areas with food, and a perfect watering area, watering holes, and of course safe nesting trees at night. So baboons will roost at night. So I'm sure if you've spent time camping in Africa, you know that the early hours of the morning and late hours of the afternoon is the time the baboons start settling down, getting out all their last bits of energy before they go and rest up in trees at night. I could watch these baboons all day. They are rather entertaining. Some So what will generally happen is one of these little That's our Hummerkop's calling again. So I'm guessing one of these mischievous little young baboons got up to some nonsense and was being disciplined by one of the older members of the troop. Um, So, if you're camping in the bush, there are pros and cons to camping next to a baboon roosting tree. The pros are, well, there's not many pros to be honest, besides having a bit of entertainment in the afternoon. Um, as you watch the baboons, but again, be very careful they don't raid your campsite. Another pro of sleeping next to a baboon roosting tree. Obviously, never sleep under a baboon roosting tree, otherwise, you will get your tent completely destroyed by baboon feces. But if there are any predators around at night, baboons are generally a very good alarm system. So, yeah, it can be very useful to be near the baboons, but the amount of noise that they make can be quite unbearable. And of course, they do like to defecate everywhere. So beware. This is obviously a young male baboon seeking refuge in the tree. So we got a good question from Chica coming through here, asking if humans are more closely related to baboons or monkeys. So actually, our closest living biological relatives are actually chimpanzees and bonobos. So we share about 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees and bonobos, and I think gorillas are about 95% of our DNA. So yeah, they're just generally our closest relatives, and then we would probably be nextly more closely related to baboons rather than monkeys. But yeah, it's incredible how we share so many traits and characteristics with these primates, and how the more you watch baboons and primates, the more you realize how similar they are to us humans. See, this mother baboon is giving her little one's leg a groom. It looks rather uncomfortable, I must say. So we have another question coming through from Linda is asking if baboons are only found in Africa. So we do have 6 species of baboons in Africa, and there is also a species of baboon that does occur in the Arabian Peninsula. So I believe there's only 2 baboon species that occur outside of Africa, but most of the baboon species we have are inside Africa. So we do get the Hamandrous baboon, the Guinea baboon, the olive baboon, yellow baboon, chakma baboon, and the 6 baboon species. I'm not too sure, can't quite recall. But there are 6 different baboon species within Africa and 2 baboon species outside of Africa. What? So another question asking about will a troop of baboons only have very dramatic, I must say. So, if you are a guide on safari, on a game drive, on a rainy day like today, baboons can be an absolute lifesaver because, yeah, if you're not seeing too much else, baboons definitely do help with giving some entertainment. You can sit and watch these baboons for hours and hours on end. And yeah, thank goodness we have these baboons here today. So no, there will generally be a few male baboons within a troop, especially if it's a large troop. So this is quite a large troop of baboons. I think we're not even seeing all of the individuals within the troop, but it should be at least 40 or 50 individuals that are just around this pad. So there'll probably be anything between 4 to 5 big males in a troop of baboons. Um, uh, Again, a troop that's not bigger than 50 individuals. So yeah, they do need a lot of males, and of course, the more males you have, the more politics there might be. Look at this naughty little guy on the left. He looks like he's about to get up to something. So, Catherine, I do agree with you there. So, baboons, you can see the communication is very similar to how us humans communicate. So, yeah, I think that's also what fascinates me so much about chimpanzees and gorillas is they're even more closely related to us. They're very cognitive, so their hands, you can see their hands and feet are very dexterous. And they're able to manipulate and maneuver a lot of tools. So you're able to use tools with those hands of theirs. Chimpanzees have been recorded using tools in many instances. Chimpanzees have actually even been recorded for baby chimps to actually have artifacts which might resemble a little like a stick man. So there's been a few case studies done of chimpanzees that have a little fork shaped stick that could resemble a little stick man that has actually been passed from one generation of young chimps to the other. And of course, chimpanzees also use tools quite a lot while feeding to get termites out of termite mounds. And again, these tools can also be passed from one generation to the next. So they are very highly intelligent creatures. Oh, see, there's three big males here. There's one of our hammerkops. So yesterday we had a really cool sighting of a pair of hammerkops that were doing a mating display or mating dance here at Lentorre. So it was really awesome to be able to witness that and see it live. And obviously they're still hanging around. So hammerkops will be resident in pans like this that are do have enough water. As long as there's enough food and enough water, they're happy to reside in a little pan like this. They just better be careful that the baboons don't get a hold of their nest because baboons are well known for raiding nests. Um, they are omnivores, baboons, so yeah, they're very happy to raid birds' nests, feed on eggs of birds, as well as in the calving season, like the season coming up now. It is common for baboons to actually eat and kill baby impala too, which is not one of my favorite things to watch, I must admit, because they kind of have a similar hunting strategy or method than wild dogs. They don't always kill their prey before they consume their prey. So, yeah, I know this time of year you can see baboons like big baboon dogs or big male baboons like these two sitting across from the pan. They will very happily walk up to a baby impala and start disemboweling the poor impala before it is actually dead. So, not my favorite part of nature. But with those canines that they have, yeah, they're very, very um, accurate. Well, yeah, very dangerous predators. Even a cheetah, the baboons, big baboons like this, will chase cheetah off of a kill. Um, yeah, they're definitely not a creature I would like to get on the bad side of. I got another baboon selfie here. You can see himself in the camera. This baboon is definitely way too close to the camera. I really wish we could get him in focus, but he's literally right in front of the camera. Yeah, hope he doesn't damage it. So thanks for your comment there, Catherine, about gorillas and chimpanzees. Yes, I do believe that there's been some studies done about gorillas and chimps actually learning sign language in order to communicate with humans. Obviously, a lot of chimps and gorillas in sanctuaries and zoos that have been uh, used as research subjects to find out their intelligence level. And it's incredible how intelligent these primates are. Chimpanzees definitely win. So yeah, the IQ of a chimpanzee is definitely a lot higher than that of a gorilla, although to me gorillas are still pretty intelligent. I much prefer to spend time with gorillas. Chimpanzees can be quite ruthless, whereas I do find gorillas are a lot softer and have a lot more of a kind temperament. Chimpanzees, goodness, they can be very aggressive. So obviously, gorillas are primarily herbivores and frugivores, so they do feed on mostly vegetation and fruits. They do also consume termites and roots of trees, and this is to substitute their diet. Because obviously, especially the western lowland gorillas are a lot. They need a lot more protein in their diets. They do feed on these termites to help substitute their protein levels. But chimpanzees, on the other hand, are omnivores, and they do receive their protein from feeding on other primates. There's a tiny little baby baboon. Have a look here. He's still pink and black. How cute is this guy? So thanks for that info, Catherine, about the Western lowland gorillas in a zoo that apparently does communicate through gestures um, and sign language. That's very interesting. I know there's a famous little baby Western lowland gorilla that was actually just born in a zoo this year, so it should be about 9 or 10 months old now. He's probably one of the most famous little Western lowland gorillas in the world. Yeah, his birth and everything is quite well documented. But yeah, definitely better to have these animals in the wild. But again, another advantage is we can study and research these creatures to learn them better. Oh, this baby baboon is adorable. No, check out this little guy. So, a baby gorilla, a baby Western lowland gorilla. I've seen one before that was probably less than a week old, and I actually didn't even know it was a tiny little baby gorilla. So, if you have a look at this baby baboon here, he's very pink and very black. But baby gorillas, when they're born, are actually almost completely hairless and look quite hideous, I must say. For the first at least month of their life, they're just this tiny little hairless ball that, yeah, shame. They're not the prettiest looking creatures, but yeah, they do get quite cute at the age of about 3 to 4 months of age, and then they're just this bundle of fluff. So, chimpanzees and gorillas, as we are on the topic, are both very sociable primates. There's a lot of very good documentaries you can watch nowadays about chimps and primates. I was talking about chimpanzees earlier and how oh shucks, they hunt other monkeys, they'll hunt duiker and small antelope. But again, they're very aggressive in the way that they hunt, especially in Tanzania. I have a lot of clients that have seen the chimps in Tanzania and have horror stories about how chimpanzees rip apart their victims and make them suffer. And for goodness, I don't even think I can mention all the things I've heard about how ruthless chimpanzees are. So they're very territorial. very dominant, and they definitely do like to show off their kills when they kill another primate species. They do like to show off. So, for me, unfortunately, chimpanzees do depict a very nasty side as we do have in humans, so very murderous, nasty side. Whereas I like to think that Western lowland gorillas and gorilla species are more like the kind, caring side of humanity, whereas in chimps they do kind of start to become a bit ruthless from time to time. I cannot get enough of these baboons coming to check out the camera. It makes my heart so happy every time. Isn't this so cool? This baboon has probably got his face right in the camera. Oh dear. It looks like he's completely repositioned the camera. He decided to show us another scene from the pan. Two very big male baboons here. So those canines of a big male baboon can actually be longer than the canines of a lion. And that's why even with leopards. Oh, there's another tiny little baby here. Have a look, have a look. Oh, look at those other ones. So this female here, just on the screen, also has a tiny little baby on her belly. So baboons will give birth. They do have a gestation period very similar to our humans' gestation periods, generally about 6 months. 8 months gestation period for baboons, and yeah, they can give birth throughout the year. So there's not isn't one set birthing period for primates, and this is the same in most primates. That goes for bonobos, chimpanzees, gorillas. Most primate species do not have a set birthing period, although they might have peak periods through the year that they might give birth. So, Julia, thanks for your question asking about the female baboons. So, yes, we do have quite a few female baboons here that have quite large backsides and very uh, apparently are very attractive and appealing to the male. So this is a sign of estrus. It's a sign of sexual maturity and that they are cycling. So the males are aware that these females are ready for mating. It's apparently very attractive and appealing to a male baboon to see a female baboon with this very large backside. And of course, she will also often produce quite an attractive scent to the male baboon, which will for mating. So it's generally only in females. Male baboons don't have these. They don't change their. Oh, check at this little baby baboon's hand. Oh my goodness! There's another one just to the left here. There's two very, very small little baby baboons here today. Oh, look at the teeth when this baboon gives a bit of a yawn. So when they yawn like that, you can generally see their big teeth. Males obviously very big in the shoulders. So yeah, the only baboon that changes color during the breeding season, Julia, is actually the mandrills. And one of the primate species on the top of my list of primate species that I really need to see in the next couple of years. So the mandrills that you get in Gabon, the males actually change color, not the females, and they get very beautiful, impressive colors: blue, lilac, pink, and even purple in their face, on their backsides, and obviously in their genital area. So definitely give a Google male mandrill in breeding season. Very, very beautiful primate, I must say. I think they must actually be considered as one of the most beautiful primates in Africa. And again, it's only during the breeding season, which this is generally in July, August. I do have some safaris that I'm trying to sell going to Gabon. So if anyone is interested to travel to Gabon with me, please get in touch if you want to go and see the mandrills. It's a very small period, though, of about a month that these mandrills are in breeding plumage, the males. The wild troops are quite difficult to find. You do have to go and track them as if you would track all the gorillas. But yeah, it's definitely worth it if you do find those incredibly beautiful mandrills. The males obviously are the ones that need to attract the females with those very brightly colored bodies of theirs. Very, very impressive. Canine Girl, thank you for joining us today. And it is really, really entertaining. Just makes you want to smile and laugh watching these baby baboons playing. Yeah, so really awesome. Thanks for sharing your story of your baboons that were in the road in the Kruger. Yeah, they are rather entertaining. You can definitely sit here for hours watching these baboons. They just, yeah, make you instantly laugh and smile. Catherine, I'm sure you're dying to see some gorillas again. Yes, definitely dying to go and explore and see some gorillas. Um, yeah, maybe even some chimpanzees. Yeah, often gorillas and chimpanzees will actually communally feed together, same trees. Oh, check out this little baby baboon. So this little baby baboon is probably not more than a week old. Very pink. You can see he's still very nervous, very wobbly. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm having a cuteness overload here, folks. Isn't this just adorable? This is making for a really lovely photo, especially if you were sitting in this hide right now. The reflection of these baboons in the water would also make quite a cool photo. So you can see this one baboon's got a bit of an injury on his leg there. Ow, it could be slightly infected. Shame baboons can get injured while fighting with one another, and also obviously they do spend a lot of time sliding up and down in the trees. They are prone to injuries. So Nina Smith, no, I haven't actually seen any cats hunting baboons, although I have seen baboons being killed by lions. So again, just I think it was an area where baboons were feeding and there was lions around and the baboons were harassing the lions and yeah, lions just got a bit enough of the baboons. And yeah, one of the female lionesses, she just turned around and yeah, that was our tiny little baby baboon that was giving a bit of a squeal. So yeah, predators do. So yeah, the predators will kill these baboons from time to time. Again, it's not a preferred meal. I know leopards are known to kill baboons and eat them quite a lot, but it's not. Baboons are definitely not a preferred meal for predators. Although yeah, they do make an easy meal for leopards. So leopards are known to kill baboons quite often. This big male baboon has blocked our view of the tiny little one, but you can see there's almost like a little creche of young baboons all playing. That was rather unnecessary. The older baboon just took the young baboon's head and just slammed it into the ground. So, with all the rainfall we've been having and all the lacking of animals at most of our locations, this is definitely one of the best sightings we've had for a while. So, yeah, very grateful that these baboons have come out to entertain us for the morning. So, Canine Girl, interesting about your baboon story. Apparently, you watched a video of a male baboon that took on 14 wild dogs and won. Yes, like I said, male baboons are a force not to be reckoned with. Those canines of theirs, they are very, very strong. And yeah, a bite from a baboon can very easily kill a smaller predator. So yeah, any predators like wild dogs, caracal, serval, cheetah, civet, definitely would not want to mess with the baboons at all because they have more chance of being killed or injured by these very formidable creatures. Oh. If you were sitting in this hide right now, there would be so many amazing photo opportunities. Check out this little baby baboon. His female is suckling her young one, and then there's obviously a youngster giving its mother a groom. Oh, she looks like she's about to fall asleep there. So yeah, baboons definitely not to be messed with. At Mabulla, on a few occasions, we've seen the cheetah running away from baboons. Baboons actually chasing cheetah off of a kill, and the cheetah don't have much of a leg to stand on. If one or two big male baboons comes and tries to chase cheetah away, the chance of them winning is very slim. So yeah, the at the detriment of getting an injury, cheetah will normally just run away. So, yeah. I actually recently saw two young baby lions in Zimbabwe trying to stalk. I don't know if they were trying to stalk a troop of baboons or if they were trying to stalk the baby elephants down at the pan, but either way, they were not going to win. And these young baboons very early got picked up by young leopards, young lions, sorry, got noticed and picked up by the baboons, and they started alarm calling, and the big male baboons started chasing these two little baby lions away. I don't know what those lions had for breakfast, but they definitely were overdosed on some confidence, and I don't know what their plan was, but yeah, they could have been ripped apart by these baboons. In a lot of urban areas where baboons do live close to humans, baboons are very much known for attacking dogs. Again, dogs will start chasing and barking at baboons, and when they get too close, a baboon can very easily rip apart a dog, no problem at all. So, yeah, gotta be very careful around these baboons. They are very formidable predators as well. We have some comments coming through here. Rosie Adams, yes, this baby baboon are very filled with mischief today. And I think, yeah, the young ones are, yeah, not being too obedient. I'm sure any of our viewers with children have a full understanding of what it is like when your little ones are testing you, which seems like the case with some of the noise and squabbles that are going on at this pan here. Some young baboons testing their parents. So, good question there, Mindy. Thanks for your question about why are baboons' faces elongated like dogs. So, it's actually quite interesting baboon facial structure. So, they have these adapted eyebrows that help to keep sun out of their faces. And again, they have that elongated face. Um, what's happening there? Oh, this female baboon is really loving this time. So yeah, the baboons do have that very much elongated face because of all the teeth that they do harbor. So they need to have that long muzzle because they obviously rely on feeding on tough fibrous foods that they need a lot of strength to pull and feed on. Obviously, they have those very big canines that are very useful while feeding and hunting. And this is, yeah, the main reasons baboons have quite an elongated facial structure. But yeah, it's very interesting how they also have that modified. So I was just trying to listen to some of the baboon family politics going on. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Mindy, about why the baboons have such an elongated face. We've got another question here from Rosie Adams. Yes, baboons do remind you of meerkats, remind us of meerkats, the way that they sit like that and watch very eagerly to see what's happening in the vicinity. There can be a very good alarm system, so baboons will sometimes communally feed in areas with other antelope so that if there is any predators between the antelope species or baboon species, if they alarm call, then it's a good way to help um, raise the alarm earlier. So the more eyes that you can have to spot predators, the better, the safer the environment. So you often find in open areas a lot of species like impala, your nyala, baboons, vervet monkeys, all feeding together. You'll generally have a centurion. So one of the individuals they'll take turns between baboons and monkeys. Within the vervet monkeys, you also have a few that will sit up in a tree to be a lookout, and they'll take turns. Baboons, you'll also have the same. One of the individuals will take turns to sit up and scout out for any predators, and if there's any predators, an alarm will be raised, which also helps other antelope to pick up on danger sooner. So it's quite a good commensalistic relationship. So, Mindy, yes, chimpanzees are very violent creatures. I'm actually not fond of spending too much time with chimps. Uh, this little one is teasing this female. Okay. So, grooming is very important in primates. It's a form of bonding. So, a lot of the youngsters, to gain favor with the adults or even the big males, will groom each other. So yeah, we're just talking about baboons and how grooming in all primate species and actually antelope species as well. In fact, all species, primates, antelope, even predator species, grooming within their family groups is very important. The allo grooming or social grooming, it helps to form strong family bonds. Especially if the young ones, like these baboons, have been misbehaving, a good way to suck up to their parents or the adults or the elders in the group is to go and give them a good old groom, do your community service. Good question there. Spas Inkov is asking about how many different calls do baboons have. So I know vervet monkeys have 9 different alarm calls, and that's just their different alarm calls. So baboons also have between 7 to 10 different communication calls, including alarm calls. Some includes grunts, barks. They have a copulation call. They do also have a few different distress calls, which are known as yaks. They also have a bit of a whooping sound, which is a long distance communication call, normally between the males. So yeah, quite a few different forms of communication in baboons, not just verbal, but also non-verbal and interactional communication between different individuals of the group. Sorry, folks, I think we have a bit of signal challenges at Lentore, but how lucky were we to spend so much time with a family of baboons? Goodness gracious me. Yeah, it was really an absolute privilege to be able to, yeah, feel like you were in a baboon family for the morning. I don't know how much time I could spend hanging out with a baboon family, though. Yeah, it looks like a lot of politics back and forth. I know there are a few people that have actually integrated themselves into troops of baboons, not just with primates and gorillas, but think he's a gentleman from South Africa. I'd have to Google his name. I'm not too sure his name. That actually very slowly started gaining the trust of baboons and integrating himself into a troop of baboons. Uh, Good on him, but I don't think that's my life's calling. Much prefer to observe them from afar. Anyways, it was a great time we had at Lintore. We're back here at Tembe Elephant Park to still be graced by the presence of some very large tuskers having a mud bath. We've got our woolly neck stork. We've got one of our greenbills calling, Sambre greenbill, an Egyptian goose in the distance, and an elephant on the right hand side here that looks like he's having some digestive issues. So we were just talking about social structures in primates. So there are 7 different types of primate social organizations or structures. You do get solitary individuals. You do get pair bonds. You get one male pair bonds with multiple females, one female unit with multiple males, and then you do get all male units. So you do get these different levels of social structure, and it's quite interesting. I did a bit of a study about social structure in primates, and your lesser primates, for example, your vervet monkeys and your small primate species, have smaller social bonds because and family groups because their brains can actually only digest and process the different interactions between different individuals. So the higher up and the more intelligent a primate species is, the more interactions and social bonds they can have. So within chimps and bonobos, they can actually have many different interactions with different family groups without having conflict because they have a very good memory and very intelligent in order to remember the different interactions with different groups. So when you have a smaller group of primates that are very territorial and don't like interacting with other primates, it's because they have basically reached their maximum capacity of social bonds that they can comprehend in their brains. So it's the same like us humans. Us humans are very intelligent, and that's how we can actually have large social groups and social bonds and a lot of very high interaction database of people that we can interact with every day. Whereas with primates, the lesser primates are only able to process and interact with a smaller group, whereas chimps, primates and bonobos are also very intelligent as they share much DNA with us humans, and they're actually able to have social bonds with not just one group, but multiple groups within a home range or within an ecosystem that they can actually remember and interact with. So it's quite interesting if you just have a moment to think about that and think about how us humans have also evolved to having all these different social bonds. So Susie, thank you for your question. Susie's asking about are primate female roles in any way similar to elephant matriarchs? So generally, in most primate circles or primate social groups, the males are dominant and the ones that control and lead the group. Although you do get a hierarchical structure amongst the females. So, for me, a great way to explain it is with Western lowland gorillas. I spent a lot of time in West Africa with Western lowland gorillas and also learning about chimpanzee, bonobo social structures as well. So, I find it very fascinating that in your gorillas social structure, you'll have the females that have a hierarchical structure amongst themselves. So when a male gorilla first recruits his first female, she will obviously be the alpha. Any female that joins the family group after that will then fill into a slot in this kind of chain of command or pyramid of command within the group, and they're very much strict with following this hierarchical structure. So at any feeding sites, you'll get it's kind of like a monarchy, if you think of it like that. So then at the feeding sites, you always have the main matriarch and more higher up females that will be feeding in the prime spots, and then the juveniles and individuals that are not as high up on the chain of command will then feed on the outside. Even the male, if he comes into a root mining site or a site that's they might be feeding, he will often have to get a nod of approval from the matriarch in order to come and feed next to her. So it's kind of like in humans. The male is the head of the family and in charge, but of course he has the female's permission to say so. Sandy Franklin, thank you for your questions. We have a question from Sandy Franklin about how long do various animals suckle. So again, it all depends on the size, body size um, of the animal. So elephants, juvenile elephants can feed anything generally it's between 2 to 2.5 years. They'll be suckling. But again, the smaller the animal, the lower the gestation period. So then when you get to predators, it might only be for a few months. Antelope species also maybe just a few weeks. So it all depends on the prey kind of type, body size, and size of the animal that you're referring to. Anything from a few days to a few weeks and even a few years in larger mammals like elephants. Looks like we're experiencing some lovely rainfall in Tembe, and of course, these elephants are having a great time. I can hear the European bee eaters flying over above. Why don't we just have a bit of a quiet moment just to enjoy and listen to these elephants as you imagine the pitter patter of the rain and that fresh rain smell in the soil. Isn't this just so special to be able to just watch these gentle giants having a good mud bath, enjoying the fresh mud cooling themselves down? You can see that obviously this little bit of scattered rain has left the soil nice and fresh. Trying to have a just imagine that smell of the fresh rain. Oh, it is a beautiful smell. Apparently, there is a company that does actually sell a fragrance, a fresh rain fragrance that you can is bottled as a perfume. Must be a lovely smell to remember the African bush, all the smells of the early rains coming. So this time of the year with the rains arriving is very important for the ecosystems. It's like a rejuvenation and rebirth of a lot of life. A lot of little ecosystems can start to regenerate themselves. So a lot of water sources will be filled up with the rains. A lot of these pans and dams and watering holes start to get water again. A lot of hatching will happen with a lot of fish, tadpoles, a lot of small nymphs and creatures start to live again. We spoke about the other day the hatching of a lot of dragonfly species. It's a very important time of the year, a good time for putting on a bit of weight, a bit of condition after a very long dry season. A lot of little amphibians and reptiles. This is their time to shine. Um, a lot of vocalizations. So if you have a dam or a pan near your camp, lodge, or house at this time of year, often the frogs go absolutely crazy. It's quite interesting how the frogs have a bit of an amphitheater, but it's all very scheduled. Each species has a specific time that they can all call at once. Otherwise, if all frog species called at the same time, it would be quite an overwhelming sound. You wouldn't be able to hear individual species. So the males will be calling and vocalizing in order to attract the females. Actually, also learned recently interesting fun fact about frogs. So sometimes a female frog in some species can actually breed and procreate with a different male from a different species. So it will mean that her eggs will hatch quicker than other frog species, but the offspring of these eggs will generally just be females, and can sometimes be infertile. But in hard times when frogs might be stranded in one pan and there's not much diversity, it can be useful for these females to procreate with a male frog from another species. Obviously, this rainy season also brings a phenomenon of all the termites that start emerging, which attract all the bird life. So it's kind of like a ripple effect across Africa as these migratory birds then start coming in for the termites, which have then come because of the rain starting to fall all over Africa. The rain also affects the predators. So rain can also affect the visibility of predators while trying to hunt. So it can make it quite difficult for some of these bigger cats to make hunts and kills during the rainy season. Although in other cases it can give them an advantage. The rain and all the loud noises and sounds, if they can sneak up to unsuspecting prey, could also give them an advantage for hunting. But yeah, cats don't like the rain because it's not the easiest conditions for them to hunt in. Cat fan, yes, this elephant is trying some form of ballet. I don't think he's going to be selected for any shows or anything like that. He's not doing so well balancing on those three legs of his. This is a rather large elephant tusker here. He's also kind of halfway between deciding to dig up some of the soil to scatter onto his head, or here we go. So it's also quite fascinating that elephants will also destroy and break termite mounds and use the soft pull soil from the inside of the termite mounds to cool themselves down. So that's a good method of thermoregulation during the hot, dry summer months. Is yeah, the elephants know that inside those termite mounds is a lot of very cool, soft sand. So if they can break their way through a giant termite mound, they'll often um, even lie completely on their side and roll on the termite mound or almost slip down or get that soft soil from inside and throw it onto their bodies. And it can be a good way to cool an elephant down in the dry season. So while we're talking about the rain and frogs, yesterday we had a facts and fables or a folklore traditional kind of yeah day. We were discussing a lot of interesting stories and cultural beliefs on animals. So as we're speaking of the rain and frogs, apparently in some traditional stories and some traditional cultural beliefs, they do believe that frogs are the rain makers. As soon as the frogs start vocalizing, a lot of people believe that this is a great time to start planting their crops, that the rains are coming, so that they'll be very happy in a lot of African countries. I think it's probably in South Africa and Zambia where they do believe that, yeah, frogs are rainmakers or the rainy season bringers, and yeah, time to start planting your crops. Right, seems like we might have some bird life over in Victoria Falls. Why don't we see what birds are waiting for us in Zimbabwe? So it's way past vulture feeding time, but these vultures are obviously still hanging around with the marabou stork, feeding on some water, maybe hoping to get a few scraps here and there. We've got a hooded vulture on the left-hand side, or quite a few hooded vultures, three hooded vultures here, also sunning themselves. Also some white-backed vultures seeking refuge in the shade. What these vultures are up to. So, yeah, a lot of interesting conversation we've been having recently, again, about the mythologies behind vultures and marabou storks. We won't get too much into it because it's a little bit of a morbid topic. The bringers of the death world or the underworld, the undertakers. If you have a look, there's two vultures here that look like they're dead. Don't think they're quite dead. They actually look like they're sunning themselves, or they could be practicing the anting behavior. This one hooded vulture looks very strange, though. Well, it could be anting themselves, and anting behavior is a common behavior in birds that actually lie down on the ground, or sometimes they can even sit near ants and actually pluck ants and put them on their feathers. What they're looking for is they're looking for that formic acid that ants have on their bodies and can help one to regulate the oil levels on their wings and feathers. It can also act as an anti parasitic for their feathers. So, obviously, birds need to be quite in tuned with keeping themselves clean, cleaning those feathers of theirs. Without strong, healthy feathers, they are unable to fly. So, yeah, anting and that formic acid on ants can be a good method to help to keep their feathers in good maintenance. Quite cool to see these birds anting like this. I've seen the vultures before. We saw a whole bunch of hooded vultures at this exact location here at Safari Lodge. There was about 10 of them all lying down. I had no clue what was going on, and then I had a bit of a think, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen so many birds all anting together. It could have been a carpet of ants, so you get these carpets of or droves of ants that come through. Perfect place for the vultures to go and spend some time anting, although they shouldn't spend too much time there because if the ants get too irritated, they might start causing some bodily harm. So they'll just stay there for long enough to get some ants over their feathers and wings, frazzle them up a little bit to release that formic acid before having a good shake to get rid of the ants. So I've got a question here from Hans. Thanks for your question. Hans is asking about, do birds need to drink often? So birds need to drink water depending on the species mostly. So some birds are not water dependent and can get quite a lot of water from their diet. But you do get other birds that do need to drink quite often. So obviously your nectar feeding birds like hummingbirds and sunbirds do get a lot of moisture from their food, which means they don't need to feed often. But your carnivorous birds will also get food, liquid from their food. So yeah, a lot of the meat that they might feed on. But yeah, vultures do generally need to drink at least once a day, especially after they've eaten. So they do generally tend to prefer to feed after they have eaten. So yeah, your doves will also feed quite periodically throughout the day. And what's quite cool about birds and drinking is the sand grouse. So, sand grouse, when they come down to a watering hole to drink, they'll often fluff about their feathers in the water. And they actually have feathers that are specially designed and developed to harboring and holding water. So they'll fluff up some water into the feathers and fly away to their chicks that might be at a nest quite some distance from the water, and then they actually feed their chicks from the water stored in their feathers. So interesting, all these very cool adaptations that birds have in order to survive in their environment. So, Mindy, thank you for your comment about your experience with anting. So, yeah, it's actually a lot more common than we think. So, thank you for sharing your story about the crows that used to visit your backyard and land on the anthill, open up their wings in order for the ants to climb all over their bodies. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Thank you for sharing your story. So, I think it does happen a lot more often than we realize. We just don't always pay too much attention to their behavior. But, yeah. Very cool, and thank you for sharing your story. I didn't think about that. So, yeah, if you see birds acting strangely or having some strange behavior around a termite mound, pay a bit of attention. You might see them acting. Anyways, looks like we've got a few kudu down here on the far bottom left. I'm delighted to see that there's a bit more greenery here in Victoria Falls at Safari Lodge. Impala looks like a herd of male impalas or bachelor herd of impala that are also coming down to the watering hole. Righty, why don't we head back across to Safari Hook and see what has joined us there? Oof, looks like we've got a nice big elephant ball that's also coming down to the watering hole to cool off in a hot Namibian sunny day. So we were mentioning earlier about the tusks and tuskless elephants, and yeah, it's quite interesting to see how these Namibian elephants I mentioned earlier in the show that the elephants in Namibia, because of the one, it's obviously genes and genetics, but also can their short tusk lengths can also be linked to very low level of minerals in the soils. Obviously, it's also very hot in Namibia, so that heat doesn't help their tusks. It makes their tusks very prone to cracking and breaking. So you find a lot of those elephants in Namibia have very stubby, broken, chipped tusks. It's really interesting how these elephants in Namibia have adapted to surviving in such harsh desert conditions. So they do have quite a few interesting, unique adaptations. Um, Obviously, they can survive very arid conditions for very long periods without any food or water. So, yeah, I think if you took an elephant from southern Africa and plonked them in the middle of the Namib Desert, I don't think they would last too long. So, these desert elephants here in Namibia have definitely evolved over many years to being able to survive for very long periods without drinking or eating much food or water. They generally forest these elephants in the desert do generally tend to have much longer legs and smaller bodies compared to the savanna elephants, and this does help them with in order to navigate those sand dunes and of course the very rough terrain. Isn't that a beautiful sky? Well, we have some Egyptian geese. Just enjoying this beautiful scenery here at Safari Hook. We haven't seen much sunshine here in Joburg today, so it's nice to see some sunshine. Got our blessbok, sorry, springbok that have come back for a drink. Off you can see a nice comparative um, moment for our female springbok on the right and a big male springbok on the left. Nice and sunny, nice hot day. Springbok do look very similar to the Thompson's gazelle, so we had a pretty cool sighting of a Thompson's gazelle earlier this week in Kenya at the Oldonyo African camera. That was pretty awesome. From the back, I actually thought it was a springbok. They look very, very similar, except the Thompson's gazelle obviously has much thicker and longer horns. But if you don't see the head, it can be quite difficult to differentiate between the two. So springbok are mostly active. Their peak times of the day that they like to be active is dusk and dawn. And again, it's a very similar adaptation to the oryx to keep out of the sun during the heat of the day. Of course, you'll always still find them feeding from time to time. Just the time they're most active is at dusk and dawn. Springbok are generally browsers. They spend most of their time browsing, although they do feed on succulents from time to time. And again, they can live without drinking water for very long periods of time, even months on end, if they cannot find water. They'll be substituting this water with some of the succulents that they feed on, tend to be very high in water. So obviously you can see springbok are definitely not of a concern in these areas, especially in Namibia. Lots of springbok around, so the populations are doing quite well. A lot of elephant activity and movement to and fro this pan as we watch the springbok moving off. Maybe we'll have a bit of a scan, see what else is around our pan today. Enjoy that lovely sunshine. One female still left behind. A bit of a scan to see if we can find anything roaming around. The animals were very nervous yesterday at this pan. We did suspect there could have been a predator close by, maybe a lion lurking around, trying to sneak up on one of the unsuspecting antelope at the watering hole. Because every species that came down was very nervous. The giraffe, the zebra, the wildebeest. It was quite a active day here yesterday, but as the antelope all came down for a drink, everything was quite nervous, cautious. Very rocky terrain here. Wonder if they're going to get much more rainfall for the year. Obviously, Namibia has very low rainfall. Some areas experience less than 150 mils of rain for the whole season, so very, very dry environment. So obviously Namibia is very well adapted to having quite unique species. So a lot of species that occur in Namibia are obviously the elephants we spoke about, a high amount of antelope species. You do get lions in Namibia as well. A very good population of oryx, springbok, and of course, along the Skeleton Coast, the seal population does very well. So, yeah, I've also seen cheetah in Namibia as well, in Etosha. So, all these open plains are perfect hunting ground for cheetah. Of course, springbok are one of cheetah's most preferred prey species, cheetah and impala and springbok. And of course, everyone is always going crazy about those brown hyenas on the wild the Skeleton Coast there. So, yeah, still my dream to see some brown hyenas feeding on those dead seals at the Cape Seal Point. That would be pretty epic to see that. Those brown hyenas scavenging around on the ocean. Rosie Adams, thanks for your comment there. Yes, we do learn new things every day. Definitely have to keep quite sharp with all the questions and information coming through. So, yeah, always good to keep reading up and learning about all these very fascinating and interesting creatures. Two Egyptian geese, so you can see they're just nipping off the top of the grass there. So, Egyptian geese will mostly feed on grass, vegetation near watering holes or dam areas, but they do also feed on seeds quite a lot. So, your diet about 75% compiles of grass species for these Egyptian geese, but of course they do feed on quite a high percentage of seeds as well. Brendan, thank you for a question about if there are any animal species that occur in the rainforest. Oh, I'm sorry, I did see, Catherine, your comment earlier that I do think we should have a camera that in a forest somewhere. Imagine a camera in the Knysna forest. I think that would be pretty cool. Try to keep an eye out for that forest elephant. But yeah, a camera in one of the forests somewhere in Africa would be pretty epic, although I don't think um, the cameras would stand the test of time in a rainforest. But anyways, yeah, the antelope that occur in the forest and the rainforest, my favorite antelope, forest antelope, would definitely have to be a bongo. Can go and give it a bit of a Google. Bongo, a bongo antelope, a very beautiful antelope. Both males and females do have horns, so they almost look like the of body of a nyala, female nyala, with the horns of a male nyala. So they are semi closely related to nyala antelope. Very elegant and mysterious forest antelope. You obviously do get your forest buffalo and a lot of little duiker species. So in West Africa, I think there's in most regions in West Africa, there's at least 9 to 12 different antelope species that do occur in the forest. So obviously, a lot of forest antelope have adapted to being much smaller in size. You do also get the sitatunga, which looks very similar to a bushbuck, and they occur in the marshy, open grassland areas. And my favorite, of course, is the Red River hogs. You do get the giant forest hogs, which are quite petrifying. Giant, one of Africa's largest hogs, weighing up to 180 kilograms. Not a creature you want to get on the bad side of. So very beautiful um, animals and creatures that do occur in the forest environment. So, Inga, thanks for your comment there. Yes, Egyptian geese. I don't like talking about Egyptian geese too much because, yeah, they are quite an invasive species and very aggressive towards other bird life in the aquatic environment. Check out this gemsbok. He has got one horn here. So, often these oryx or gemsbok can break their horns while fighting. Yeah, shame. Makes him a bit vulnerable to predators. Doesn't have two horns to protect himself. Shame. It does look like a very thin individual. Um, he is, yeah, it's a male, so if he's on his own, he could be a solitary bull, kind of living out his last few years. You can see he's very sunken in there, in his ribs and hips. So, yeah, shame. This old boy might only have a couple of years left, but yeah, almost looks like a unicorn, doesn't he? Damn poor boy. Catherine, yes, I would also love to see those brown hyenas on the Skeleton Coast. Yeah, uh, Mabula has been a great location for brown hyenas. I think I've literally had more sightings of brown hyena at Mabula in 1 month than I have in my whole life. So I'm really looking forward to heading across to Mabula at the end of the month. I'll be live at Mabula from the 31st of December, which really excited about. Yeah, I'll hopefully get some more brown hyena sightings there. But yeah, seeing those brown hyenas on the ocean with their little waddle while they go and feed on seals would definitely be an awesome sighting. It would be a lifetime sighting. So I'm just walk him on his own, so I need to be careful of any predators. You can see he's licking on a salt block there. So again, an old bull like this by himself that's not in great condition is a perfect subject or prey for a lion or any predators around. So he needs to be very cautious and wary not to be eaten, become somebody's lunch. All right, folks, why don't we head across the Olifants River and see what activity we have waiting for us in South Africa? Looks like we have some more majestic elephants that have been crossing the Olifants River You can see they are very wet and kind of dark in color. Pretty awesome to see elephants crossing a river, although I don't think there's too much water here, so I don't think it's very deep for them. But maybe if we're lucky, we can catch them crossing the other side of the river. Of course, elephants will cross rivers and are actually very good swimmers. They're very buoyant and can swim across very heavy torrents of water in order to get to better grazing areas. And I think this is literally a bachelor herd of elephants. A bachelor herd of some naughty bulls, probably planning to get up to some mischief. Oh, looks like we've still got some bulls crossing on the right here. There's a tuskless bull. Tian, thank you for your question about Egyptian geese. Tian is asking where Egyptian geese breed. So, again, as I mentioned earlier, Inga, you're correct. Egyptian geese are very aggressive and brutal birds. They do chase a lot of other birds away from the environment, so they're very territorial. And they'll actually, so they do make round nests from time to time. But I have actually seen Egyptian geese. All right. Seems like we have a cool scene at Juma. Why don't we head across to Juma in the Sabi Sands, see what's waiting for us? So I hope this poor buffalo bull's not stuck in the mud, but you can see there's some barbel there, some catfish that are stuck in the mud, wallowing away or flipping and flopping their way as the buffalo bull is wallowing in the mud. But I really hope this buffalo bull is not going to get himself stuck in the mud here, because he'd make himself very vulnerable to predators. Looks like he has some company. A few bachelor buffalo bulls coming down for a nice wallow in the mud. And some buffalo bulls are rather stinky creatures. And these old bulls do like to get pretty dirty. Check out this guy. How cool is this? Oh, whoop. See, the buffalo got a fright. See, there's a catfish there. So one of the barbel or catfish that just came out the water and just gave our buffalo bull a big fright as he noticed, what on earth is that? So I did see Juma Pan earlier today, and I was hoping, or Gowrie Dam, sorry, and I was hoping that there would be a bit more water in here, but it looks like it's still pretty dry. Not too much water there, so I think they still need quite a bit more rainfall in order to fill up this dam. In the meantime, these buffalo are having the best time. Hashtag living the dream. This is a perfect place for some buffalo bulls to spend an afternoon. Such filthy creatures, aren't they? I do not understand buffalo. They can be quite filthy. They can spend hours and hours on end lying in wallows and puddles like this. And yeah, of course they do go to the bathroom in that time, so they'll kind of use the bathroom, lie in these puddles, not phased. Just obviously don't care about much about their personal hygiene. Buffaloes do have quite a terrible smell. These old bulls, and then they'll go and give themselves a good old scratch next to a stump or a tree close by to help them get rid of all those itchy spots. What a cool sighting is this! So it's quite common to get these bachelor herds. So you often, obviously, buffalo social structures. You get the big breeding herds with males, generally one or two males in a herd, same as the baboons for quite a number of females. I mean, sometimes you can get buffalo breeding herds up to the hundreds and thousands. So yeah, but obviously the bulls that are no longer privileged to be in the breeding herds with the females will sometimes form these smaller solitary groups or bachelor groups. Catherine, I agree with you there. Nobody wants to have a catfish in their bathtub. Yeah, it was quite funny. The buffalo got a bit of a fright from that catfish that was, yeah, surfaced on the bank there. So, yeah, cat fan, yes, this is a perfect mud spa for these buffalo. They are having a really great time. Nice place for them to roll. These are very, um, yeah, you have to be very careful when you're walking through the bush. If you come into any little open pan areas, that you don't find a grumpy dugger boy. Another name for a buffalo is a dugger boy, like the mud men of the bush. Those catfish are actually quite adaptable to moving over, so they can actually move over land, and they don't have to be in water from one pan or one puddle to the next in order to survive long dry seasons. Just like the lungfish. So, lungfish can also live in the mud for long periods of time before the rain arrives. I've actually gone hunting for mudfish before. It's not as easy as you think, and it's a very muddy situation. Just like the situation these buffalo are in. Of course, they are loving this. For some reason, they love this sticky mud. Anyway, folks, it has been a lovely afternoon and a privilege to be with you today on this Saturday afternoon. Please don't forget to join in to our sunset safari coming up next. From me and the rest of the Wild Earth crew, I want to wish you a happy Saturday and see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a lovely cat day, folks.